Happy Wednesday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drinking Champagne, which means I must be joined by Mr. Andrew Champagne himself. Andrew, how's your week going, my friend?
Well, it was going really well up until about 5 minutes ago. This is attempt number 2 at recording the intro for this podcast. We had some audio difficulties that thankfully we've been able to sort out. I may sound a little bit different because I had to swap a microphone out, but at any rate, it beats the alternative. Some people would say it doesn't. Those people don't listen to this podcast anyway, so the hell with them. It's been a pretty busy week, a lot of wedding planning going on here. Had a gym day this afternoon that royally kicked my ass. Excited to be here, though. Really looking forward to talking about a loaded late pick 5 sequence on Thursday at Saratoga. The early part of the Thursday card, Josh, I got to tell you, I'm not overly excited by for a number of different reasons. The last 5 races on that card, though, there are a lot of really good wagering opportunities. I had to put together a ticket that goes a little bit deeper than what I usually am comfortable with, but that's how deep some of these fields are. Some really strong betting races on tap.
Yeah, no, I really like the sequence. I thought it was very interesting. There's a couple different ways you could go. As usual, there are 2 races where we do not have any horses in common.
Bingo!
And I have a couple. I attacked it in a different way, I think, than you did, and there's a good chance that my ticket changes by the time we get to Thursday. But Andrew, I did want to shout out. It seems that your fiance, your future wife, is starting school ridiculously early, huh?
Yeah, this is one of those things I will never understand, no matter how long I live out here in California. When I was growing up in upstate New York, and yes, the song from The Simpsons is dead on accurate. Find it on YouTube. Every single word of it is true. The way the school year worked was there was Labor Day. Teachers came back on the Tuesday. Kids came back on the Wednesday. Well, here in Northern California, the school year is starting. Her first day with her class of 5th graders is starting on Wednesday, August 14th. So in fact, if you're listening to this right now, she may very well be teaching that group for the very first time out of 180 some odd days of the year. If you've seen it on my Twitter already, I apologize for flooding it, but she is doing a Donors Choose project in an attempt to put together a reading project for her kids. If you are looking for a worthwhile cause to support, I can assure you this checks that box. She is a 5th grade teacher at a public school outside of Oakland, California. She is incredibly good at her job, and I will always signal boost the things that she's trying to do as she's trying to do them, especially the one time of the year where I've got what I would consider a pretty legitimate audience. So if this is something you're looking to potentially support, what I'm going to do is put a link down in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, that will link to her Donors Choose page. You can also go on my Twitter at Andrew Champagne, scroll down just a little bit, and you'll wind up seeing the link to the Donors Choose project that she's put together. Again, if you're looking for something that is going to help a lot of kids, this ticks that box. The stuff that she does is absolutely amazing. I will never get tired of singing her praises, which is probably a good thing since I'm marrying her in about 10 months.
Yeah. Start of the school year for us here in the suburbs was always a little bit early. It was always last week in September, maybe a week before. And I remember CPS, Chicago Public Schools, was always past Labor Day. And I just remember being super jealous, like those first couple weeks. It's like we're starting school and, CPS still hasn't started. But obviously different calendars, they end up getting out later than we did and stuff. It all balanced out. But I always remember just those first couple weeks, like, man, could you imagine if we didn't start school for another couple weeks? But funny story. I actually was in originally when I went to college. I was in an education program, and so I was going to be a music teacher, but I quickly learned that I would not make it in the education system. So I shout out to any of those that our teachers. A lot of my family's teachers. My sister-in-law, two of my sister-in-laws are teachers. My two sisters are teachers. And yeah, it's a ton of work. So yeah, definitely check out that link, and if you can, help out. And also, not to be too selfish, help us out. Hit the like and subscribe button as well while you're at it. There, if you're listening here on podcast, subscribe. And just set the auto download on. You don't have to listen. You just got to download. That helps us out a lot. So, but Andrew, anything else going on this week?
I mean, this week at Saratoga is a good one. It's the Alabama, cheap plug. I will be on with our friend Chase Sessoms, the Wolf of Oaklawn. Funny story, they were actually making plans to have me on last week. They wound up getting Maggie Wolfendale, and I wound up getting pushed back. If I'm going to be preempted by anybody, I will gladly be preempted by Maggie. She is one of the best in the business. Always exciting to be able to talk to Chase about this stuff. I believe I will have a $100 bankroll for Saturday's Alabama action. So looking forward to that. The Alabama is one of my favorite races on the Saratoga calendar. You've got 3-year-old fillies going a mile and a quarter. I'm a sucker for races that start and finish by the grandstand. That's actually one of the problems I have with Thursday's card at Saratoga that we'll get into when we start looking at that card. But lots going on there. You can follow all of my Saratoga stuff online at andrewchampagne.com. Analysis, selections, bankroll plays for every race every day at Saratoga. And I'm starting to prepare for flying east in a little less than 2 weeks. I fly east a week from Sunday, and I'm very happy, Josh, that I looked ahead. I have about a 4-hour layover in St. Louis, Missouri, and I knew Missouri did not allow sports betting because day job at winnersandwhiners.com, I'm writing a lot of articles about the state of Missouri sports betting and the fact that it will officially go to a vote on election day. If you're out there, vote yes. Vote yes. The stuff that Missouri has had to go through the last couple of years, wouldn't wish it on anybody with the nonsense that's been going on in the legislative sessions. But Missouri does not allow ADW wagering. So I need to make all of my bets before I take off from San Francisco that morning. Thankfully, I'll be able to watch because Naira streams all of their stuff on YouTube. So I'll be able to go to a bar, order some lunch, boot that up, and have some fun watching that and doing whatever else I can do to pass the time. Because, yes, a 4-hour layover sounds horrible, but I prefer that to something that has me running through an airport trying to make my connection, channeling O.J. Simpson in the Hertz ads. I mean, that's just not something I'm built to do, even after losing about 15 pounds, going to the gym a couple of times a week and running my butt off there. So don't mind sitting around. Don't mind watching Saratoga, especially because a couple of days after that, I'll be at Saratoga from Thursday through Sunday, the final week of the meet. So starting to get excited about that. That's always a really good time. Always look forward to being able to see my family. I don't see them nearly enough. That's something that's very special to me and something I always cherish, being 3,000 miles away from them for most of the year.
Yeah, I know you were saying, you'd gotten a real intense workout today, and you're a hips guy, right? When
Yeah.
you get sore in the hips.
It's all in the
Unfortunately,
hips. Chubbs was right.
yeah, unfortunately, I'm a knees guy.
Oh,
Luckily though, I've lost. I haven't weighed myself in the last week or two, but per my doctor, I've lost close to 50 pounds
hit the
in
applause button.
the.
Hit the applause button
Thank
right
you.
now. That's
Um,
amazing.
in probably a little bit over a year. I was
Attaboy.
pushing 300 for a while, and then Andrew and I are both tall people. Andrew taller than me, but I'm just shy of 6'3". I'm like 6'2" and a half. And yeah, I was pushing 300, but now I'm under 250. So yeah, I've been playing volleyball every couple days, getting out and walking, and really trying to work on that. Had some health issues come up last year, so doctor really kicked it into gear for me. So hopefully hopefully we continue that. I'll be svelte for the champagne wedding of the season.
I don't
Uh,
much care how svelte you are. I'm the one that's got to get svelte, man. I mean, I started a couple of new things about 4 or 5 months ago. I'm down about 15 pounds and I've sort of plateaued, but I'm at the stage where, like, I'm not losing any weight, but I feel like I'm getting slimmer in certain spots. And
mhm.
honestly, that's fine by me. Like, I'm not the type of person that gets overly motivated by a number on the scale. It's how you feel guy. I feel good. I'm moving around better. That's good enough for me. And Josh, seriously, that's fantastic work. I'm proud of you, buddy.
Yeah. But doctor helped kick stuff into gear. It was just really, like I said, just been trying to eat healthier and be more active, and hopefully we will kick this pick five into gear, and see if we can get some money home here. Because
Good
I'll tell you
segue,
what, man.
Josh. Good segue.
I'll tell you what, man. I've had a just absolute rough start to this meet, and we are like 2 weeks away from it ending. So we're 2/3 of the way through, or maybe even more than that. And I'm still waiting for that score. So maybe this week is going to be it.
We're
We're
not
gonna.
quite that far into it. We're 23 of 39 days. So we've got a couple more days before we get to 2/3. But I hear you. Mayday Ready saved the first half of the meet for me. I ran second a lot. If you've been looking at the pink sheet, there have been several days where I've been 2 for 11 or 2 for 12 with 6 top picks running second. It's been that kind of meet for yours truly. Thankfully, Mayday Ready got me right about a week and a half ago. May have gotten us kicked out of an ice cream store permanently, but
Hmm.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. If you don't get that reference, listen to last week's episode of Drank and Champagne for the full story. I was able to tell that story, by the way, in exactly 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So I was able to clip it and put it on Twitter. I was proud of that, Josh.
Yeah. So this race, I think I have ideas of where I'm going to go, but with these 2-year-old races, one thing I've definitely started to do is take a look at the tote board. If there's just some horse that is just taking an absolute ton of money and I don't understand it, I'll re-review before I punch my ticket in. Or hey, all of a sudden this 5-1 horse is the favorite in the doubles for some reason. Like, I take a look at the tote to help me out here. There's always a lot of they knew money, especially with these 2-year-old maiden races. But I do think I have a pretty good hold on this race. You have a pretty full field here of 10 with one AE, the 11, Il Suo Oro. Your morning line favorite looks to be the 10 Wonderland at 7-2. Never really know at 9-2. And then, 5-1 and plus on everybody else here. But pretty flat on the morning line. And I have, I believe, 3 horses marked down originally here. You look to be a little bit more spread. I think you have 4 horses in this race, and we have a couple horses in common. My top pick is probably going to be the 9, Dr. Glick here. It's a first time starter for Chad Brown. And, you see Flavian Pratt get aboard. He seems to be Chad's go to guy when it comes to these turf races. They're winning at 32%. So I'm going to guess this is the horse that he thinks most highly of here. Looks to be the first starter for this dam, More Mischief. And if you look at the breeding stats on this one, I mean, turf top and bottom with Constitution on top and Into Mischief on bottom. Win early pedigree as well. So, and Chad gets these horses ready to go on debut. So I thought the 9 was my top pick here at 4-1, but I did use 2 other horses. I'm going to use one of the other Chad Brown horses here, the 4 Competitive Market. Frankie Dettori gets aboard here. You see Authentic on top, which doesn't look like he's had any turf winners yet, as of the printing of these PPs. But Cantharos on the bottom, definitely a turf influence, is winning at 14% first time as a dam sire. So I thought that this was probably the second choice I would go with, and then the 5 horse. She's got Will. There's another Mark Casse horse in this race. I believe it's the 10 horse Wonderland that looks to be a little bit shorter on the morning line at 7-2, but 5 She's Got Will at 10-1. This is one that War of Will has really gotten off to a pretty good start with turf starters, hitting at almost 15% first time turf and 17% overall with the turf starters. So it seems like these War of Will horses that are pointed to the turf are well meant. Not as much turf pedigree on the bottom, but I see Dylan Davis get aboard. Dylan is riding about as well as anybody is right now. Mark Casse is had just a hot start to the meet. He's winning at 30%. So I thought that of maybe a bit of a price. I really like this 5 She's Got Will. So where did you land here, Andrew?
Well, we do have a couple horses in common, including both of our top picks. Dr. Glick is my top selection as well. A little bit more on the pedigree. I love looking at these bottom side pedigrees. Shout out to Ren Carruthers, who turned me on to this, especially in 2-year-old races. As horses keep going, this gets a little less useful, but every once in a while, you can take a look and you can find certain things. With Dr. Glick, the dam is a stakes winning dirt miler, so you know this distance shouldn't be too much of a problem. If you go back to the second dam, she threw a multiple stakes winning turf horse by the name of Eyewitness. Really nice horse. And the third dam going back is the dam of a horse named Sharp Humor, who gave Barbaro all he could handle in that year's Florida Derby. There's a lot of bottom side pedigree here. Chad Brown trains, Flavian Pratt rides. A quick note on jockeys. Arad Ortiz Jr. is in the midst of a 3-day suspension. I believe he is off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you see guys like Flavian Pratt or Frankie Dettori getting more love from Chad, there's a reason why. The leading rider at Saratoga is serving a suspension. Flavian Pratt has ridden a lot for Chad. He gets first call here, especially with Arad out of commission. And Josh is highlighting the jockey trainer last 60 days numbers, 32%. That's pretty good. I don't love the post, and it's tough for first-time starters to debut going 2 turns. I say that, and the 4 horses that I'm using are all first-time starters because the horses that have run before just haven't shown a whole heck of a lot. The other A horse that I have is a big price, and that's horse number 6, Chelsea's Choice, which means, yes, the Coots Exacta is in play. If you know, you know. Chelsea's Choice has an absolutely outstanding turf pedigree. You see the sire American Pharaoh. The half joke that I tell is that American Pharaoh is the best turf horse Bob Baffert ever trained. If you look at his stride from back when he ran, he skipped over the ground. His entire stride was turf. Every single thing about him was smooth and fluid, and I think he would have absolutely loved the grass. His progeny have excelled on the grass, so you check that box. On the bottom side, you have a wharf front mare by the name of Flying the Colors. Flying the Colors is a half to a multiple stakes place turfer by the name of Midnight Mile, who runs on Wednesday. We're recording this on Tuesday night. She may have already run at that point, but Midnight Mile's got a lot of talent. The second dam is a half to a couple of Group 1 winners, including yesterday, who came over and was third in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. My concern with Chelsea's Choice is that Bill-Mott horses sometimes need a race or two to get going, unless, of course, Caleb and or his father happen to like a Bill-Mott first-time starter, in which case, go straight to the windows. Kidding aside, Chelsea's Choice at 10-1 seems like a massive overlay. She's got every right to be a runner. I need to use her in this particular spot. The 2 horses that I'll have as Bs, one of them you have as an A, and that's the 4 Competitive Market. This is a horse that fetched $410,000 at auction as a yearling. You see a Siren Authentic that had a lot of steam. You see a Cantharos mare. There's some talent on the bottom. I'm not sure she's turf. I think there's a chance they're running her for the distance rather than the surface, but I'm not going to let Frankie Dettori and Chad Brown boom me out of a pick 5 in the first leg. I will also use number 10 Wonderland, although the post is really a killer with that one. Not to say that it's a death knell, but you have to be considerably the best horse or get an absolutely perfect ride from the far outside post on the inner turf in order to win. There's a really good pedigree here with Medaglia d'Oro on top and a more than ready mare on the bottom. You see Mark Cassie, you see Jose Ortiz. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if this horse wound up winning, but the two A's for me are the 6 and the 9. The two B's are the 4 and the 10.
Yeah, the 6, I will say, does have a couple of other things going for her. She's a January foal, and this is a mile and 16th on the turf. And there's an angle that I liked using in usually 3-year-olds and up races, where you'll see a 4 or 5-year-old maiden that's very lightly raced, and they're going, the mile and 16th, mile and the eighth, and they're going against a lot of 3-year-olds. I usually tend to look at that a little bit more because the horse should be a little bit more filled out. And you know, at this young of an age, a couple of months makes a pretty big difference. So, I looked at the other January foal that's in here as well in the 8 Laughing Lady. Um, I guess I'm just a little concerned that I just don't know if the horse wants to go this far. You see Practical Joke on top, and you generally think maybe a mile max there. And But you have Empire Maker on the bottom, which does have a bit of stamina influence, but not necessarily turf influence. So I don't know. I thought that this was one that maybe I'd like better going a mile on the dirt, not necessarily a mile and 16th on a turf. But was one that I took a little bit of a look at. But yeah, I'm gonna use the 5, the 9, and the 4, and you're gonna be on the 4, the 9, the 10, and the 6.
Yep,
So
I'm to start. And honestly, your guess is as good as mine with regard to who winds up going favored in here. It's a
yeah,
really tough way to start the late pick 5.
yeah, and I mean I'm being as transparent as possible. Like, if this board looks really, really wonky and there's a horse that's taking a bunch of money, there's a good chance I just toss it in. My
Yep.
my ticket's not super thick to start with right now, so I have a little bit of bankroll I think to play through, or just additional tickets I can play to
Yep.
kind of kind of figure that out. But yeah, we'll move on here. And we're going to be going to the Rick Violet Stakes here. We're going to mile 16th on the turf. Note, there is a lot of turf racing on Thursday. They are making up for lost time, and looks okay.
Yep. I will
Looks
say this: if there is any rain at all whatsoever this week at Saratoga, blame our friend Matthew DeSantis, because over this past weekend, he tempted the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing. West Wing reference for the win right there, and posted a pristine 10-day weather forecast. You don't do that. You don't do that at Saratoga. Saratoga monsoons are called Saratoga monsoons for a reason. And my goodness, he is one of the smartest people I know. And I can't reconcile the fact that he did something that could potentially be very, very dumb. Love you, buddy.
This is another very flat race.
I agree.
When you look at the morning line, I mean, you got a horse at 3-1, you got two at 7-2, you got a 9-2, you got a 4-1. So this, David Aragona is as good as it gets, and you see this, and it just makes you think, all right, this is going to be a very, very flat race. I have two horses in here. I have one I really, really like, and I have one that I have as a B to start right now. But the 4, Courtly Banker, owned by Saratoga Stable, who attacked me once on Twitter because I may or may not have said something bad about Tiz the Law.
Now, by
Um,
contrast, one of the people at Saratoga Stables, Jack Knowlton, is a fellow Ithaca College graduate. Go Bombers!
but the 4, Courtly Banker here, you know, I didn't see any real need to lead types in this race. And I think Courtly Banker has got a shot to get out there, get on the front end, and maybe wire this thing. Um, and I'll tell you, it was something that our friend Matthew DeSantis, the cursed Matthew DeSantis, said to me, or said on one of our streams. Someone had pointed out to him that when Johnny V is on a speed horse, watch how everybody else rides. It's almost like people get out of the way for him. And so he, like Matthew said, he started going. He was like, "That's ridiculous," but he started going back and watching. And he's like, if Johnny hustles the horse, people get out of the way. Like he just gets the lead. So, I see Johnny V aboard here, and I see a horse that has shown some tactical speed, has shown some frontline speed. Getting the lead going a mile, is still a maiden. So maybe we're in a little bit overhead, but has already gone into two of these New York Stallion Series races, and is coming right back to another state bred stakes race here. But I don't think the last two races, speed figure wise, look that bad. Obviously, both times he was beat by, is it the Big Torpedo?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is a horse, by the way, that if that horse ran in this particular race would be a no-brainer single. That's a nice horse. I tried to beat him last time out. It did not go well for me.
Yeah. So, with that horse not here, he's coming off 2 seconds. I think he's going to get an easier trip here. I think that there's a chance he just goes wire to wire. Johnny V gets aboard, or stays aboard here. So I really like Courtly Banker here. And then my second choice is going to be the 6 Russian Realm, for Danny Gargan. Flavian Pratt gets aboard a turf horse. I've probably said this who knows how many times the last couple weeks. I see that and alarm bells go off. Katie Davis was riding this horse before, on the dirt, in maidens and an allowance race, and ran well in all those races. And you look on the top side, Constitution can run on both surfaces. So I think that this horse will do fine going on the turf. I think seeing Flavian get aboard tells you a bit, and seeing the fact that they were able to get this horse to turf works also helps things out. So I really like the 6 Russian Realm here. I think Flavian getting aboard a little bit of a kind of well meant angle, and then I'm going to use the 4 Courtly Banker, who I think is going to have a pace advantage here.
I went 4 deep in this race as well. Courtly Banker, you said a lot of good things about. I agree with most of them. This one is a tepid top selection for me. Last time out, ran well, second best. The horse that beat him isn't here in this particular spot, and I do think is going to set an ideal trip either on the lead or just off the pace. Courtly Banker, though, is not a horse I felt confident enough to give the lone A treatment to. Like I mentioned, I'm 4 deep, and it's going to sound like a band rehearsal. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if an inside horse winds up winning this particular race, I'm in really good shape. The price of that group is horse number 1, Easy Roll. I think the last race is a complete throwout. Easy Roll was the 7-2 favorite, lost that race at the start. Draw a line through that race, and you're left with a horse that's run fairly well a couple of times. Most importantly, though, and the thing I like the most, has won without Lasix in the past. That's an unknown for a lot of the horses that are in here coming in from maiden races that they've won as 3-year-olds where you were able to run on Lasix. Easy Roll looks a lot better if you can toss that last out effort. I see Luis Saez, who has really gotten rolling over the course of the last week. He started to turn those seconds and thirds into wins, and I think he may very well be a bit aggressive out of the gate from that inside draw. I think Easy Roll is an overlay at that 12-1 price. The other 2 I'm using, I really hope I'm saying this right. Horse number 2, Fidalite Cayute. Sounds about right.
Sure.
We'll go with it. Gets Jose Ortiz again. Didn't have a great break last time. Has back form that is good enough to run well in this particular spot. I do think this one may show some early speed, has some early speed in his form. This is a horse that broke the maiden going 5.5 furlongs on dirt at Monmouth, going 22-2 for the opening quarter. There's every chance he winds up leading this by default. Number 3, Instamatic, was the last horse I threw in here. The 3 horses that are the shortest prices on the morning line were Russian Realm, the 3-1 morning line favorite, and 2 7-2 shots. Instamatic is one. Number 8, Elysian Meadows, is the other. I'm not crazy about any of them. Instamatic, though, is the one that I can say, okay, if Instamatic can stretch out, has a chance. The last 2 races downstate were pretty good. There's a chance this one has stepped forward from age 2 to age 3, is versatile, has some tactical speed, can pass others. Needed to at least throw that horse in. But I will say I am against Russian Realm in this spot. Has never tried turf, has never run without Lasix. For me at 3-1, no thank you. And number 8, Elysian Meadows, has run 2 turns on turf 1 time. That didn't go so well. I think Elysian Meadows is a lot better going 1 turn than 2. If this race was at Belmont around that 1-turn mile configuration, I would like Elysian Meadows quite a bit, but I just don't think he's a 2-turn horse. 1, 2, 3, and 4 for me in the 7th. Another spread race for me, and I think it's going to be a spread race for a fair amount of people. If you've got a strong opinion in there, more power to you.
All right, we'll keep moving on here. We're going to be going a mile and 1/8 on the dirt here, and this is going to be race 8. And did I read this correct? You have a single in this race?
Yes, I do.
Talk to me about it.
So I want you to do me a favor with that handy dandy drawing stick of yours in the video thing that we're doing here for YouTube. So I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to cross out the 2 races Donegal Forever ran where he didn't have Lasix, the 3 and 4 back efforts. Okay, very good. Tell me what you're left with.
You're left with a stinker at 1.25 miles.
Who won that race?
I don't know who won
That
that
would
race.
be Arthur's Ride. All Arthur's Ride did next time out was win the Whitney. Donegal Forever has won the other 3 starts, and the last time out at Aqueduct wound up winning by 3/4 of a length, wound up showing a fair bit, navigating a pretty wide trip, finished very fast. I liked the late splits there. The second place finisher came right back to win. I think Donegal Forever is a completely different horse with Lasix than without Lasix. I think sits an ideal stalking trip in a race that has some speed for him to sit off of, and unlike several others in here, has beaten similar quality foes. Tyler Gaffleone rides for Pletcher. I like the recent workouts, very steady. I think Donegal Forever gets the perfect trip, and in a sequence where I don't have a lot of strong opinions, Josh, if he doesn't win, I don't know who does. So with that in mind, Donegal Forever, my most likely winner of the sequence, is a single for me. And if this one doesn't win, I lose. But given how deep I'm going elsewhere, I needed to single somewhere. I like Donegal Forever quite a bit in here. May very well not go favorite either with the presence of number 3 Cook Creek, the 9-5 morning line favorite. But I think Donegal Forever is far and away the most likely winner in here.
Yeah, and Cook Creek, had a really nice Brisfig last time out, but if I remember correctly, I think I double checked against Timeform, and Timeform didn't like the race nearly as much. If I remember correctly, I'm kind of going off of memory at this point. I went 2 different directions. I went with the 5. Is it Tabagouch?
That's
and
right.
and you mentioned that you thought that there was a lot of speed in here. Honestly, I think if you kind of go through the PPs, you see a lot of 2s. You don't necessarily see a lot of 1s. I mean, Olympic Dreams did go wire to wire once, but they went 49 to the half there. That's not happening here.
From the rail, Olympic Dreams has to go. I don't think he's talented enough to lead them all the way around. I think he's got to go. I think Nimitz Class has got to go. And I think Tabagach has to go. You've got 3 horses out of 6 that are going to want to go early. I'm not saying that you're looking at 22 and 45, but I don't think anybody's going to have it easy up front. And if someone does have it easy up front, at least one rider has screwed up.
And I would not put that past at least one rider screwing up. I think the 5 is got a chance to just get out there and set the pace, and maybe ends up dueling. I don't see 3 horses going in here. I mean, I look at Nimitz class, and I mean, he hasn't been on the lead. He sat second a lot, but he hasn't been on the lead since what? Well, he had that one race at Laurel going a
Yeah, the
mile,
one
but
race
he
two
folded.
back going a mile, and then he stalked going 7 furlongs. If you look back, this one has run well early, going 2 turns before. Again, I'm not saying he's good enough, but I don't think his best chance is sitting back and waiting for things to come to him. I think he goes. I also think Cook Creek is going to be up very close early on. That's a horse that went wire to wire 2 starts ago. I get where you're coming from as far as the 5 potentially being the speed of the speed, but I look at this horse and I see a horse that hasn't won in nearly a year. And looking at the past performances, if you like Tabagach, don't you also have to like Olympic Dreams because Olympic Dreams beat that one 2 or 3 starts ago?
Well, Olympic Dreams also was on the lead and got away with murder. So,
I mean,
um,
entirely possible.
but you know, the second best jockey change you can make, first is off Vinny Chemino, and the second is off of Trevor McCarthy. So, Dylan Davis, a very well could be just the smartest man in the room and go for it. But Tabagoch, I think, is my top pick in here. And then the 6 classic catch is another one I'm going to use here. Came over from the Kentucky circuit, and has run some pretty nice races. If you look back, the is it the Jockey Club Derby Invitational at Aqueduct last year? Ran second in a $500,000 stakes race. Has got some back class there in some other races where he was in graded stakes company. And I feel like now that he's kind of dropped back into more realistic spots, I think he's really kind of started to run pretty decently. And I don't think that this is just that good of a field. In that last race, finished 7 by 13 lengths, but the third place finisher came back to win next time out. So, and the same thing happened too back at Churchill Downs. So I think he's kind of been maybe a little snake bit, maybe in slightly tougher fields than I think he's going to be facing here. So I thought the 6 classic catch getting Flavian Pratt aboard, I thought he was interesting in here. So I'm just going to use the 5 and 6. I'm going to try and get around the 2 and the 3 in this race, and sound the I hate money alarm, I guess.
No, I don't think you need to sound the I hate money alarm. From my standpoint, I needed to single somewhere. I don't want to say I love Donegal forever. I like that one a fair bit. Classic Catch is my third choice in that race. And the faster they go early, the better that one's chances figure to be. I think there's every chance Classic Catch is sixth of sixth, 10 lengths off the lead as they go up the backstretch. If the fractions are 23-46, that horse might have a shot. If it's 24 and change 49, not so much.
All right, let's move on to race 9 here. We have a mile and 16th on the inner turf, state bred maiden here. And, once again, we got another nice full field here. We got 11 horses. We got a couple of MTOs. And your morning line favorite is going to be the 5 Amplitude at 3-1. And I used the 5 Amplitude here. Yeah, I looked through this race, looking at some of these horses that have had some starts, and I got to tell you, I wasn't entirely impressed with these horses with starts. Um, I think it's pretty tough. Looking at some of these horses. So I went with the first time starter. Obviously, it's Klarovich Stables. It's Uncle Mo who wins early. Smart Strike on the bottom who wins early. They both like the turf. One starter so far for this dam, one winner. So just you see Flavian get aboard. I mean, just all the bells and whistles here for this horse. Probably going to be your favorite by pretty large margin if I had to guess. So I'm going to go ahead, and the 5 is going to be my lone A in this spot. I did take a bit of a shot with the 6 Kid Creasa here?
Hold it. Hold it. I don't think anybody can say they're taking a shot with Kid Creasa, given the shot I took with Kid Creasa last time out at 31-1 in what is one of the worst beats of my Saratoga career. If you haven't watched that race, find it. That horse does every bit of dirty work, looks like it's re-braking with about 100 yards to the wire, and gets nailed right on the line. It's absolutely disgusting. Just disgusting. And
Yeah,
now
and
he's going to be a much shorter price here, and he's probably going to win because, well, I'm using him. I'm not picking him on top, probably because there's some leftover resentment that I need to talk over with a professional.
yeah, and Caleb always likes to say, if you didn't go to the wedding, don't go to the funeral. So maybe this is going to the funeral at this price, 6-1 on the morning line. But this had a couple of different angles going for me. Obviously, I saw the E8, right? I saw what's going to be controlling speed in this race, and once again, I'm looking at the horses that I think have a shot in here. They're all 3-year-olds. This is a 4-year-old going this route distance, and I know Chad can get these horses ready to go, first time. And if it was any other trainer but Chad, it's very hard to get a 3-year-old turf horse to win against horses that have some seasoning, going 2 turns on the turf. A first-time starter, 2 turns on the turf versus horses that have some experience, horses that are older. Very tough. Obviously, it's Chad Brown. Chad Brown can do whatever he wants, and he breaks all the rules, right? But Kid Creasa is a 4-year-old here. You see Big Brown on top, who's had some pretty nice turf horses, some like a Hot Brown, to name one. And yeah, I just think that the pace is going to be in Kid Creasa's favor. I know what he wants to do. I see Eliseo Ruiz stays aboard here, and he knows he's only got one plan to get out there and go. So I like Kid Creasa here as my lone B and Amplitude as my lone A. Where did you land here?
So I went a different direction entirely. I'm trying to beat Amplitude here. In the past, Chad Brown bringing horses up from Monmouth was a big red flag. As recently as 2 or 3 years ago, anything he brought up from Monmouth was a toss for me. I am against him at this price as a first-time starter going 2 turns against older horses. I understand why they're running him here. He's a New York bred. There probably aren't many races for 3-year-old maidens, straight 3-year-olds, at this time of the year. He probably got a late start with them. I understand that. And this was probably the spot that they decided, okay, we're going to try him out here. We know it's against older horses, but there's not a lot of spots for straight 3-year-olds that aren't stakes races. This is a horse that's bred to be okay, sold for $310,000 as a yearling back in 2022. I had to do some very quick math there, but I see the Monmouth works. I see the lack of any turf works. I think there are some red flags here. I don't think Amplitude should be a short price. If Amplitude was trained by anybody else, you're looking at a horse in the 8-1, 10-1 range. If he winds up drifting up to that price, by all means, feel free to bet him. Knock yourself out. At 3-1 or anywhere close in what hits me as a pretty wide open race, to me, he's a play against. I've got 2 A's and 2 B's in here, along with a horse that I'm going to urge you to throw in the event there's a scratch elsewhere on the ticket. The 2 A's are horse number 8, Charles J, and number 7, New York Scrappy, in that order. Charles J gets Frankie Dettori, riding for Joseph Lee. This is Team Mayday ready, folks, and I think there's plenty to like here. If you look at the lone turf route that this horse has this season, going 1 mile and a 16th 2 starts ago, breaks from post position 11, winds up wide, contesting a legitimate pace. When you see a New York turf route go 23-1 for the quarter, that's actually a legitimate pace. I'm not surprised Charles J saw fit to give up the ghost turning for home. I think he will improve significantly with Lasix in this spot. I think he will improve significantly with Frankie Dettori, one of the best turf riders, not just at Saratoga, but in the entire world. I think there's reason to believe Charles J will move forward. And I don't think he has to move forward a ton in order to be a factor in here at a price. Number 7, New York Scrappy, meanwhile, is fairly lightly raced, only 2 starts to his credit. 2 starts ago, debuts on turf, doesn't break well, manages to rally and finish third. They tried dirt with him at next asking. He dueled through an opening quarter in 21-3 at a time when Saratoga was not playing very fast. I think that race is a throwout. I think he was compromised by the pace and also may very well have bounced off of a debut that was not bad. I think he's better on turf. I don't think 2 turns is going to be too much of a problem. Flavian Pratt hops off, but Jose Ortiz hops on. He is a very, very good turf rider, folks. And I think New York Scrappy has potential to improve, especially if you go off of his debut where he showed some promise and potential. Those are my 2 A's. Kid Creasa is a B for a lot of the reasons we've already talked about. The other B I have is number 11, Wind Dancer, who comes back, has a debut that was, I thought, pretty darn good, especially since the horse was 56-1 on that particular occasion. Contested for the lead turning for home, wound up beating a length and a half. Has since run twice and just sort of ran around the racetrack. Jose Gomez hops aboard again here. Jose Gomez is a very strong gate rider. Javier Castellano is an expert tactician. He knows when to make his move with horses. He's not quite as aggressive out of the gate. Jose Gomez, meanwhile, I think will at least get Wind Dancer somewhat involved early on. And if that happens, I think there's a chance he runs back to the debut. And if he runs back to the debut, he could absolutely win this race. The other horse I want to at least talk about, because of some fantastic turf pedigree, is horse number 3, DC Boys. Debuted on dirt at Saratoga, ran a little bit late, finished 5th, beaten 11 lengths. The pedigree screams turf to me. You see By Bolt D'Oro out of a street crime mare, and I see an auction price of $355,000. I think there's every chance DC Boys winds up stepping forward for a barn that's done very well with a small string of runners at Saratoga. Bruce Levine knows how to train, and I think if DC's Boys winds up running a little bit better than he ran last time out, he could absolutely run well in this spot and factor into the result. I went 4 deep. DC Boys was the last one I threw out. If there are any scratches elsewhere on the ticket, I would advise you to use this horse. We're going against Amplitude. We're trying to beat a favorite, and we're trying to get some value going into race number 10.
All right. And then race number 10 here. Scrolling down. Race number 10, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. We have a allowance race going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And yeah, you got a lot of MTOs. You got 10 here drawn into the main field. And it looks like your morning line favorite is the 10 risk threshold at 7-2. Yeah, this is just another race. I mean, there's a bunch of horses at 4-1, 6-1, 8-1. Another really, really flat race. Andrew, I'll let you take first crack at this one. Where did you land up?
So if you saw our show last week where we previewed a pick 5 that both of us really liked, and then turf races were taken off the turf with 15 minutes to post for leg number 1, you know that I very much liked horse number 4, Strictly Taboo, in the race that was supposed to run last Thursday. Strictly Taboo is still my top pick. I like the fact that this horse loves Saratoga, is 2 for 2 at this route of ground, and sure seems to have stepped forward from age 3 to age 4. I singled her last week. I will not single her in this spot. I think this is a significantly tougher spot than the one she was entered in last week that wound up being reined off the turf and onto the main track. And the other one I'm going to use is the horse that Joel Rosario gets off of Strictly Taboo to ride. That's the 10 risk threshold, who to me looks like the controlling speed even from the far outside post. This is a horse that's never run a bad race to date. Debuted going 2 turns, not an easy thing to do, winds up running 3rd behind a next out winner. Next time out at Keeneland, sets a very fast pace going a mile, gets caught, still finishes second. Finally shortens up to one turn at Aqueduct and never once looks like a loser. Winds up going reasonably fast early on, stops the timer in 108 and 2 for the 6 furlongs. Now, Aqueduct's turf course got a little fast in the last couple of weeks of the meet. They are not used to running through June. The turf course and the main track both got a little bit faster as a result. So take the final time there with a little bit of a grain of salt. But this horse has always been meant to be a very nice horse. Tries winners for the first time, but I think seems like the speed of the speed. And if Risk Threshold gets out from that far outside post and is able to clear the field, I think she could prove pretty tough to catch. Strictly Taboo is my top selection, but it wouldn't surprise me if Risk Threshold gets out front early and improves position from there. I'm 410 to finish things off.
Yeah, I looked at both the 4 and the 10. I ended up going a bit of a different direction. The number 9, Riley Jean, for me was my top pick, and this is Tom Amos trained horse. Started off at Fairgrounds, and they immediately were like, we want to get this horse, sprinting on the turf. 3 tries sprinting on the turf, 1 off the turf, and then they got it over to Presque Isle Downs and ran on the rubber there. Had back-to-back wins at Presque Isle Downs. Came here to Saratoga at 9-1 and ran pretty darn well there. Ended up closing, having a little bit of a kind of baby Z pattern here. Going from 5th, getting passed by a horse at least, being 6th in the straight, and then kindly, finished there 2nd by 3/4 of a length. So I think this is a horse that's in really, really good form, has run well over this surface. I believe the time form fig for that last race came back pretty good. So I'm going to go with the 9, Riley Jean, as my top pick here. And then another horse I'm using is going to be the 3, Parola Sakura here. And this is one I think that out of the gate last time just basically just didn't have a shot. Got bumped a little bit and just never really got into the race after that. Obviously, you get Manny Franco aboard now, who's used to riding up here at Saratoga. Obviously, last time was BJ Hernandez, who rides up here sparingly, but not necessarily doesn't know the turf course, I don't think, as well as Manny. So I see that as a bit of an upgrade. And just running basically at the same condition here was very, very well bet that last time out, and is coming back here and is going to be a little bit longer of a price. And if you go back and look at some of those back races at Keeneland and Churchill Downs, I think those races fit here. So I like the 3, Parola Sakura, at a bit of or not really a bit of a price, another one of those middle prices at 6-1. And then I'm going to use the 9, Riley Jean, who's going to be a little bit better of a price at 8-1.
Riley Jean was my third choice. I thought she ran fairly well last time out. My one concern with her is that race last time out sort of fell apart. You see 21 and 1 to the quarter, 44 to the half. I don't think there's that kind of early speed in this race, and I think she may very well be a bit pace dependent. Still a very nice horse, though, and a repeat of that last out effort does give her a not impossible chance. If you like her, you're getting 8-1.
Yeah. And Andrew, I got your ticket here up on the screen. Go ahead and talk me through it.
Sure. So we're spreading the first 2 legs. I'm 4, 6, 9, and 10 in the 6th, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the 7th. We are singling my best bet of the sequence. That's the 2 in race number 8. As of now, 6, 7, 8, 11 in race number 9. As I've mentioned, trying to beat the favorite there. If we wind up with a scratch in one of the other races, throw the 3 in at that particular price, and we'll finish with 4 and 10 in the 10th and final. As it stands right now, that's a $64 ticket. I got to tell you, that's a little bit more expensive than I usually give out, but that speaks to the competitiveness of some of these races. It's a very competitive pick 5, Josh.
Yeah, and I was a little bit skinnier here. I'm 4-5-9 in the first leg, with 4-6, with 5-6, with 5-6, with 3-9. If my math is correct, I believe it's a $24 ticket there.
You're good.
And yeah, I'll probably have this pressed a couple different ways. And like I said, that first leg, I'm going to take a look at the board, and we might end up adding a couple extra horses.
Yeah, it's a competitive sequence. This is one of those where you could have 5 logical horses come in, and you're looking at the will pays going, how is this paying $1,800? It's one of those sequences. There aren't a lot in the way of short-priced favorites. If you like a horse that's, say, 6-1, 8-1, it may very well play bigger in some of these multi-race exotics, not just the late pick 5. If that's a little too rich for your blood, or if race 6 is too wide open for you, no judgments. That's a hard race. The late pick 4 starts in race number 7.
Yeah, or you can play our consensus double, because that's the only thing that you can play here.
That's not true. You can hit the all button in races 8 and 10.
But
You'd
yeah,
be an all button hitting weasel if you did that, and the ticket police would be all over you, but you could do it.
Andrew, what else you got going on this week?
Oh, man, plenty. After this, I'm actually doing my video hit for the Pollock Report. It'll actually be some pedigree information focusing on Thursday's 6th race at Saratoga. By the way, the 6th race at Saratoga is becoming the 2-year-old race spot. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's one of those things that just pops up, and it becomes a little more noticeable if you're handicapping every race, every day. The one thing I do want to rant about before we wind up saying goodbye for the week, if you look at Thursday's card, the early portion of it, races 3 and 4, Josh, they both come out of the Wilson chute. We kid a lot about the chute. I know you like the chute far more than I do. You're telling me they couldn't run one of those races at 1 1/8 miles, starting and finishing in front of the grandstand on a card where you have one other dirt route the rest of the day? That's one of those little things that bothers me. I don't mind the Wilson chute if it's used sporadically, but given how often we have had to use it, given off the turf races being run out of that chute, if we wind up running one Wilson chute race a day, I'm okay. Back to back is a little bit much.
Chase is probably just sitting in his room just stewing.
He's a
about that,
bobblehead. His head is
Yeah.
going straight up and down, agreeing with me. I'm not a huge fan of the Wilson chute, but I at least understand while it's there. Chase wants to shoot the chute.
Well, that's going to do it for us here. Obviously, check out Andrew Champagne at Andrew Champagne on Twitter. You can catch him at winnersandwhiners.com, andrewchampagne.com. Apparently, you can also check him out on the Pollock Report, sometimes on DRF, sometimes, I don't know, Andrew, where else? Like, I mean, you're just everywhere, man. You're just all over the place.
It is my goal to be horse racing's version of Joe Hendry. Say my name and I appear. If you know, you know.
And then obviously I am at Cherry Drank, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Check us out at ontherwronglead.com. We should be live Thursday night streaming, probably looking at Alabama Day. And hopefully for once we have clear weather. If not, blame Matthew DeSantis. It is all his fault.